Herete Fili que Files. Welcome again to a Pearls of Wisdom project. We're glad to be here back at the church hall. Today we are joined by Andrea Demetrios and Colin Speakman. A fun fact about Andrea Demetrios is she's actually the nuna of Mr. Speakman. And we're going to now learn about a bit of a long friendship story that is between these two persons. So we're going to start with the first question. We would like you to introduce yourselves. Tell us even a little bit about how you all met up and became friends. And then also, how did you become Colin's nana?
Okay. Well, my name's Andrea Demetrios. I'm married and I have two grown-up daughters and two beautiful grandsons. And this is?
Colin Speakman, and I've been married for 53 years. Two grown-up children, 4 grandchildren, and been retired now for 13 years.
Our friendship started probably about 17 years ago.
17 years ago in a work situation. I'd already been at work for about 6 or 7 years, maybe longer, can't remember now. Andrea here, in the first 2 years, trying to advance herself, put in to be a team leader. So she came down to our group of sort of old hardheads, or 10, 12 years on the job. And this young lady comes down and says, "I'm your new team leader," which I thought took a lot of guts. And I admired her courage right from the word go. And she was a very good team leader. And she had a habit of bringing us, well, talking from a personal point of view, of bringing us out. I'd gone to work, never been involved in anything other than work for the whole time I'd been there. Andrea joins us. 6 months later, I'd been to Christmas parties, breakfasts upstairs, coffee breaks, all this sort of thing. So it just shows you the type of person she is. Yeah.
So what happened was, like Colin said, I'd become their team leader, and due to some health issues that I had, as you go through your health issues, and I spent some time in hospital with my heart, I went back to our team and I said to the team, this and this has happened to me. So long and behold, Colin goes off and has the same tests as me, as I had. And it happened that he had the same blockages in the same artery of his heart. So it meant that he had to go to hospital and have the same procedure as I did. So it was a very close time frame. So what happened was that we ended up going to Sutherland Rehab together, the cardiac unit. And from there, they gave us exercises to do. So I said to Colin, look, I already go to the gym. Why don't you join me at the gym and we can start taking our rehab exercises to the gym, and we still go to the gym till this day. So we started training together and did all our rehab together and so forth. And during our very long rehab sessions and gym sessions, we started talking about faith, different religions. And I was explaining to Colin about the Orthodox faith. And, you know, Colin brought up Protestant and Catholic, and I remember one phrase that you said to me was that your dad always said, we're just a bag of bones in the ground.
Yeah, Dad said once we're gone, this is over 30 years ago, prior to him passing, just a bag of bones in a hole. And I always believed there was something a bit more. I always believed we have some sort of spirit with us, and this is a subject we spoke a lot about. And it was on Andrea's suggestion to come down to the English liturgies, which were held here on a Saturday evening. Very small concern, usually only a dozen people, but it was very peaceful. We'd come down here and, there's candlelight, nice wafting cool breeze coming through the door. And I felt, wow, this is all right, and I found doing this on a regular basis every month, it was, and the peace that it brought out, tended to lose a lot of anger issues, and I thought it was good, and that's the way it went for the next few years. And then from that point on,
we started then coming to Sunday liturgies, and then I bought Colin his first Divine Liturgy book and many other. I lent him a lot of Orthodox books, the Orthodox faith, Eastern Orthodoxy, etc. Then we started coming to Sunday services, then we started coming to Banaya services, Easter services. So this continued for a very long time. And very quickly, Colin became a very valuable member in my family, as I felt very warmly welcomed by Colin's family as well, coming from two very different backgrounds. Colin was very welcome into our house. My dad thought highly of him. My late dad thought very highly of him.
He was a good man.
He was a good man. It took a while because coming from two different backgrounds and the age difference and so forth, people don't think that two people like us can be friends and be long-time friends. So a few years down the track, probably about 10 years down the track, in 2019, we embarked to go onto the pilgrimage, a holy pilgrimage to the Holy Land. 2 weeks out, unfortunately, Colin was diagnosed with a very serious illness, meant that he couldn't fly. It was really a life and death situation for him. I remember gathering in hospital with his wife and his family and prayed for him. I went on the pilgrimage, and the group that I was with, I clearly remember it. We were in the Holy Land, and the day of Colin's surgery, I asked the group to pray, and we all prayed. We prayed very hard. That night, I got a phone call from Sharon, and she advised me that all the cancer was taken out of Colin. Very extensive surgery. How many hours was your surgery? A long time.
All day.
All day surgery. I came back from our trip to find him all tubed up, tubes out of everywhere. We get very emotional. Sorry. Thanks. Because we truly believe that a miracle did happen. It's been 5 years now and you've been cancer-free.
Well, you can't ask for a bigger friend than that, to arrange for other people to pray for you, people that don't even know you, so that's a sign of, you talk about friendship, that's a sign of very good friendship. So I was, very moved and appreciative of everything that was done for me. And after that particular time, Andrea looked after me with her cooking, and for the next...
You're right. Yeah, so he had to be on a special diet. So I got into this mad cooking of making these kickballs. Protein kickballs, I called them. So it got him through. It got him through that. And Mari, his wife, would send me back all these containers that would go backwards and forwards. And then a year later, after the episode, we booked again to go to the Holy Land. Unfortunately, COVID had different plans for the whole world. It just destroyed everything and everyone. So in 2021, we tried again. Unfortunately, we couldn't travel because of COVID. 2022 was the same. So 2023, we were very blessed, and we embarked onto the Holy Land trip, where we went to Egypt. We went to Mount Sinai and spent a couple of nights in Mount Sinai. Very proud of Colin. He actually did the climb up. I couldn't because I had other health issues. But something happened to Colin there. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
When this particular trip started out, to me I was travelling with a group of nearly 35 people, 34 Orthodox and me an Anglo. And but I never felt out of it. I always felt like I was part of the group. They always made me very welcome. And I gradually fell into following the same routines as my fellow travellers, and but the holiday itself, I call it a holiday because that's what it was at the beginning. But as it progressed, it changed, and someone said when we were at St. Catherine's, which is in the Sinai Desert, someone said, funny things happen to you there, or funny things happen to people at St. Catherine's. Little did I know how true that saying was. I won't go into what happened, but I've only ever told two people. It was a very personal experience. And from that point on, it ceased to be a holiday and it became something else, especially moving on into Israel and following the path of Jesus from up north, down south, and all through Jerusalem. It was just a tremendously moving experience, and one that I'll never forget. And
Yeah, so when we came back from our pilgrimage that year, we were here again at church one Sunday, and after the service, Colin disappeared, and I thought, that's funny, he didn't say goodbye. Little did I know that he was talking to Father Con in the altar, and he came outside the church and he said, so where have you been? And he said to me, I've just been talking to Father Con, and would you be my nuna? And I was just taken back by it. Deep down in my heart, I knew that one day this would happen, but it took a very long time to get to the point where we are today. And I'm so grateful, and I feel so blessed and honoured to be Colin's nuna. He took the name Nicholas. So
Father Con actually suggested using Andrea as my nuna. And I said if I didn't, she would throttle me.
And that's true.
There wasn't any argument about who it was going to be. So, yeah, that's how that came about.
Yeah, so we embarked on a catechism course, and I was born into the faith. I was, every Sunday church, Sunday school, fellowship, and so forth. But during the course with Colin, going through the course with Colin, the catechism course, it opened up my spiritual eyes further. I learnt a lot, and I couldn't wait every week to start a new lesson. Because of COVID restrictions and so forth, we were still doing everything by Zoom. So we would meet up once a week, and sometimes we do 2 lessons because we just couldn't wait, and we'd do 2 lessons back to back, and
Yes.
and we'd have a cup of tea and just get straight into our studies and answer all our questions. And I'd hit myself if I got one wrong because I should know better, but I did learn a lot.
It was really very interesting, the catechism.
It was,
It went into the history right back to the beginning, from
the schism and so forth. So all of our Lord's journey and so forth, and the meaning of why we have our services and the length of our services, because a lot of youth don't understand it, and it's sad. But as you get older, it's not just come to church and listen to a bunch of people singing. It's more to it. So it's worthwhile for everyone to go and sort of pick up a book and read on it and have a deeper meaning of it, because it's so important. And I think if we didn't have that depth of faith and the friendship, we wouldn't be where we are today, and perseverance. And that's how you sort of bring people together. You let them experience their own journey, you let them experience their own research, but you're just there in the background to help them and guide them along, and try not to have too much disagreement with it and that, because everyone's opinions are unique and different, and you sort of try and come to a term. But I can honestly say that Colin and I have never had an argument in all the years we've known each other, even when we disagree to agree sometimes, but it's never been an argument. We always find we wouldn't know how to argue. We are the odd couple, as they say. So I truly feel blessed to have such a friend. And people look at us, and I think some people are sort of envious of us because they don't understand the uniqueness of it. In the beginning, I think a lot of people probably thought, we had some smart remarks back at the gym, especially Colin in the locker rooms, but you just sort of let that go over your head, and there's nothing sinister going on or anything, and you just let people talk, and that's okay, because people will always talk no matter what.
Yeah. So we are going to delve a bit more into serious illness and the trials and tribulations of that, and also the different experience of having Nana, who's younger than you, and a bit more on that scenario. But our theme today is more about friendship as well, and you guys are very good friends. So one of the questions we want to ask is also, how can we find friends who respect our Christian values? Because you'll see, especially in our generation, definitely, there's less religious people. So do you have any advice on how to find those type of friends?
Well, friendship is a funny thing. You know, you meet people in your life, and I think straight away you'll know if they're going to respect you for who you are and what you believe. So you'd have to sort of, you know, get to know the person a little bit, and then if you find that their values are a little bit different to yours, that's okay, as long as they're not too extreme. And then if you know quickly, and you'll find out quickly enough to sort of break that friendship off, and you just stay, how are you? Be polite, and just don't have any more connections with those people. I find prayer will help you find a true friend as well. Like you do pray for your friends and their families. And this is where I think our friendship has lasted and stayed the way it is, because if we didn't have the understanding and the respect from both our families, I don't think we would have been here, because our families and friends around us have accepted this friendship, and they know what it means to be a true friendship without any malice.
We were very good friends before the religion part
came into it as well.
Connected us even closer. So I think, it's very hard to put those two things together.
Well, that kind of delves into our second question, which would be, what is the characteristics of a good friend? Because you are who you surround yourself with. What are those characteristics of a good friend?
Virtue.
It's someone you can rely on at any time.
You've got to have, I think, virtue, and not be selfish, I think, is a big role, not to be selfish. And you always put the other person first, understand where they're coming from. That's what I think. Like, you always think about the other person and what they're going through, and try and put yourself in their shoes. So that's a very important part of friendship. Understanding would be another one. You have to understand their needs.
Understanding is big. Like, coming from an Anglo side, where all the people I know away from here, there's no religion at all amongst them, you know. So when I first came into like our relationship, I had to have a very good understanding, and I enjoyed listening and talking and finding out where that Andrea's background came from, and you have to respect that. I think respect is probably the word I was looking for. I think you've got to have that respect. There's no way either of us would put each other down for, you know, what we believed in at the time, you know. But I respected Andrea right from the word go. You got to appreciate, like, this woman has a heart of gold, and she would do anything for anyone, and so I had a very deep respect for that long before the religion side came into it. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. So you mentioned you didn't have many conflicts, or if had any conflicts in your friendship.
Oh, we had a lot of discussions, but never. I can't ever recall in 16 years of a conflict, not even when we were at work.
Yeah.
So are there any precautionary measures you take to prevent conflict before it even starts? Or do you have any advice, even though you have not experienced much, on persons who do experience conflict, how they can rectify those problems?
I don't think we've ever had anything like that. I can't recall. It's a difficult one, because I don't think we've ever been down that path.
You try to avoid, or I better not say this, you know, or this or that. We can say anything to each other, you know, probably things that you can't even talk to your own family about, you know. So, before the conflict, I don't know, it's never been in the equation at all. It's trying to tell other people how to avoid it, you know. I think it depends on the makeup of people. If they Some people are aggressive, some people are placid. I don't know how you would avoid that.
Mm. Well, you've
But
had also trouble though throughout the friendship, or whether it be physical problems and stuff like that, which may hurt yourself. How does prayer come into that? And can prayer help your friend out if they need it?
Definitely. And prayer, as it's proven, it's really proven when
it gets you through a lot of very bad times.
Mm.
It gives you a bit of comfort to yourself even. I was taken aback 5 years ago when I had before my operation. I came here to church and Father Con, I don't know how he knew I'd never said anything to Father Con. Obviously someone said something to him and he came down into the yard and just took me straight up onto his
to the altar.
Behind his facade, as you call it, on stage, and appreciating the fact that wasn't an Orthodox, baptised Orthodox, to go in behind there. I thought, wow, what's he doing? Taking me into this particular area. And he didn't hesitate and put a mantle over me, said a prayer to, a get well prayer, I would say, type of thing. And he did that on 2 occasions. Mm. And that got me thinking a lot right from the word go there. I thought that was pretty special at the time. He even came into the hospital to see me. Mm. And again, a non-Orthodox person. So I thought, it got me thinking a lot back then, exactly, that there was a lot more to this religion than what met the eye. It wasn't, he was putting himself out there, to me, which, it really moved me at the time. And that's what led me to, when I was well enough, to taking on this pilgrimage and travelling with these people. I sort of fell in. I started to become more Orthodox without me knowing, if you know what I mean.
So it seems this friendship has benefited both of you.
Absolutely.
Would you call friendship in general an investment in life? Whether it be good or bad, it matters who you are trying to create that friendship with.
If you find a friendship like this, hold on to it for dear life. It's a really true investment. And it's very hard to find a friendship like ours.
Well, you don't go out looking for friendship. These things evolve, and this just evolved without us even knowing, and it's not something you can go and find or look for. If you're fortunate enough, it will just happen,
So going back to an important skill in friendship, would you say listening would be important in maintaining that friendship, keeping the maintenance?
Very much so, yeah. Yeah. Whenever Andrea wants to get something off her chest, or had a beef with someone else, I'm the first person she can unload to, and she knows I'll listen. Yeah. And I think, and that works both ways.
Yes.
And I think that has a lot to do with it. Someone you can talk to when you've got troubled times, Yes. And let's face it, everyone has troubled times at some particular stage of their life. So if you have someone you can talk to, a true friend, someone that'll listen, that's all you need. And that's all it takes.
In keeping this friendship, have you both identified any disagreements that may even threaten the ending of that relationship? Or have you identified any things that could happen that may cause disagreement between you two?
No, we haven't actually. And I hope we never do. We hope we never do, but no.
I can't identify that, and I can't even imagine it, to be honest.
Yeah. So we're going to go to the Nuna question. So the relationship between a godmother and an older godchild is unique, but can also be rewarding. What would you say has been unique about this relationship?
Unique in this, I think because deep down I always knew that Colin would take this path. It wasn't something that could have been pushed upon him or anything. It was a lot of guidance and through prayer. And I really believe that I'd prayed and I prayed for the way for God to show Colin the way for him to find the path. So that was the unique part of it, and my prayers were answered. The other thing is I feel very proud to have an older godchild, especially when we went for his first communion, and a lot of our parishioners would know us because we've been to our parish for many years. So it's a very proud moment. It's very rewarding because I've brought somebody into the faith as well, for his spiritual well-being as well, and also to help like his family, because through us we pray for all of his family as well. So yeah, I can't explain how happy I feel being his nonna.
And it's a very important role. And this question is specifically for you, Andrea. But what role do you actually see yourself having in enhancing Colin's spiritual life?
Well, because Colin became a member of the Orthodox family in a later stage of life, he still has a lot to learn. So myself being a nonna, I also have to be his teacher, if you like, to guide him still, to attend as many services with him, to explain how our services work. Translator, yes, for his translator. We were very fortunate this year. We went on another pilgrimage, so I was continuously the translator. And I have to have a lot of patience as well, because our services, as we all know, are very long and very long, and sometimes you get tired in that. So I have to be very patient in explaining them and taking the time to make sure that Colin's not lost in the services, and that goes outside the services as well. That might mean like watching The Chosen together, or buying him a book on saints, or explaining the life of saints to him. And every day nearly I send him little phrases from the gospel of the day, or a psalm of the day, or a saint saying, like our favourite saint would be Saint Luke the Surgeon and Saint John Cruston, which we send a lot of quotes for. So yeah, so as a nunna, you have to be there. You have to be a teacher. You have to be a spiritual teacher. And in that journey, I'm learning a lot as well. I'm still learning, because we're all on a learning path in life.
Yeah, very good. So, Colin, when you were chrismated, do you have any favorite memories about that event? Did you find the service interesting? And then after that, did you think your life changed a bit?
Yeah, didn't change dramatically. I suppose I'd been living a bit of an orthodox life leading up to it. Yeah, I guess after doing the pilgrimage to Israel and travelling with Orthodox people, and learning a lot about the Orthodox faith, that was just like putting a final touch to it, if you know what I mean. It wasn't like the start of something, it was like the finish of something. Like when we went away this year, we would walk into a monastery. Instead of me being the Anglo guy at the back here, I was one of them. Yeah, it helped that way, and and I now feel like part of that community.
Yeah, and another thing would be your ability to receive communion. How do you feel now that you're able to receive the communion?
It was very strange at first, after spending 14 years of sitting there and watching everyone else go through this particular sacrament, and then all of a sudden to be part of it. It was it did have an effect on me. It did have an effect. Explaining that effect is it's not easy, but it's I just felt like I wasn't the odd one out anymore. That yeah, I was just part of the group now. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. So for both of you, when you're establishing a good Christian friendship, what boundaries do you put in place to respect each other's privacy? Because spirituality in itself can also be a very personal thing and commitment. So whilst also motivating each other to be spiritual, do you have any boundaries in place that so you don't become a kind of person who's always intruding to someone else's life?
Well, you have to have you have to respect for the other family members, like for Colin's family. So you always got to have respect for the other family members that don't. That Colin said all his friends aren't very religious, so you have to respect that. When Colin would say to me, "I can't make this event because of the family," and that's fine. That's fine because you got to have that boundary. You can't go and say to Colin, "Oh, you have to come." That so you respect that, and then he'll come to the next service if he can. And that, like I said before, I'm very grateful for Colin's family for accepting this particular pathway that Colin has chosen, because it wouldn't be easy for their family to understand that. So I have a lot of respect for his family, and that's where the boundary will probably just sort of stay there, because you're not going to force him to come to every event that we have or every church service that we have, because that's not always going to be possible. So.
Yes. And moving on a bit to what could potentially cause a conflict, how would you two both manage jealousy in order that would potentially poison a friendship? And I'm looking specifically within the employment space. You know how you walked in as a team leader, as a supervisory role to Colin's work. How do you manage if you see your friend getting a promotion and potentially even having authority over you? How do you make sure that doesn't poison the relationship?
A lot of fine tuning, because when I did walk into that role, I did meet with people that were there for a lot longer than me, and they weren't very happy with me, particularly being in that role. But then you have to work hard. You have to work hard to earn those people's respect and understand where they're coming from. So if it meant a one-on-one with a particular team member and explaining to him that, you didn't deliberately go and try and step on their toes, and that, or, you both went to the interview process and, for some reason they chose A over B. It's not directly directed at them that you're trying to victimize them or anything like that. So you have to have a good communication and try and sort that out. And then hopefully that would eliminate any anger or any what's the word I'm looking for? Any conflict.
Well, for an individual to be upset about something like that, it would show fairly low character, because Andrea, in this particular case, going back a long time now, applied for a position which no one else wanted to go for anyway. So, and like I say, I respected the courage that she took to come down and face a lot of hard heads and say, "I'm your team leader." Mm-hmm. And I always respected that, and I always admired her for that, and for what she did. And she was very good at what she did, and still is today. And to the fact that I only worked there for 3 more years, and fortunate enough to work with Andrea in those 3 years. And I can say with the 11 years that I spent on that job, they were the best 3 years of the whole 11. So say no more.
Sounds like Andrea had some good command presence when she walked in. So
she had her own way of putting people at ease and binding everyone. Like I say, breakfasts, attending Christmas parties, going for coffee, all these things never happened before. Yeah. That's the type of girl she was, type of team leader she was, yeah.
Definitely. So depression's been around, throughout time, and people have been depressed, but particularly the youth of today are much more depressed than in previous generations.
Yeah.
Would you say that a good friendship could be almost an antidepressant for those youth?
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. But the youth of today, as we know, they've got so many. It's hard to put yourself in that position. It's a different world they live in to what we lived in. They've got their noses in phones all the time and all this sort of thing, and TikTok and Facebook and all that other rubbish, So how do you develop good, life today is for young ones. I say life is a contest, and each trying to outdo the other. It's very hard to develop good friendships, I think, today under those circumstances. Hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah. So like Colin said, you need to have real people to talk to. You can't be on, over the phones and over things. You've got to get out there and get yourself involved with real people and have real conversations instead of all over Facebook and Instagram and so forth. Because it's the only way you can really connect with someone, and that way you really know what the person's really like. They're not just writing messages about you or sending pictures of what they're doing or where they're going. You need to have that real people contact these days to develop good friendships. So what I would sort of suggest is get off and get out and find some real people and connect to people.
Yeah, that sounds like good advice.
Yeah.
Also, we're going to go into now the illness question and physical trauma. But how do you thank God in those situations where you're experiencing physical related illness and very serious cases of physical trauma?
Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, well, I did a lot of praying before my operation, obviously. Not praying for myself, just praying for the strength to get through what lay ahead. And I don't think I would have been able to do that without all those years I had of attending the services here and what have you, and the few little icons and crosses and things that I had at home before going into hospital. Yeah, every evening I would pick those things up and just pray for strength to get through the years ahead. And like I say, I think with the prayers, Father Con, from Andrea, and other people in the church, I think that's what got me through.
Yeah, especially with serious illnesses, you sometimes come across the idea of potential mortality of yourself and others. And I want to ask you both, how do you both believe heaven is, and how do you interpret eternal life when you see that in our scriptures and so on? Heaven and eternal life.
Well, yeah, that's a difficult one.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
How do you interpret eternal life?
Yeah, eternal life.
I think it's something which comes from inside you. You can't go and talk to anyone about it. It's inside you. You just prepare yourself to face whatever's ahead. And if you believe there is something ahead, that makes things a lot easier.
Yeah.
I think that is a good part of it. I think if you didn't have that to believe in, well,
And
As
we'd
you
be
said,
lost. We'd be lost.
your soul would be lost. You'd be a lost soul virtually. But to have something there to believe in, and something, if worse comes to worse, there's still a path ahead for us to travel, you know, and it's not a total,
And you grow to appreciate your life here on earth. So with that,
very much so.
oh yeah,
Very, very much so. And my appreciation in the last 5 years is, it's enormous. And you find it very hard to understand why people get upset over trivialities, all this sort of thing. And you have an appreciation of the people around you. You find it hard to understand why people get angry, all this sort of thing. Life is completely different.
Yeah. So with that, what would you say is the meaning of life? I know it's another hard-hitting question, but what would you say is the meaning of life, and what are we here for as humans?
Well, I think you have to have happiness in your life. You have to surround yourself with good people. Find your faith. I feel very blessed that we have got something to hold on and to believe. So in this life, yes, there's a lot going on in this world and that, but we always have to remember that we have to keep our faith stronger than our fears. A lot of people question what's going on in the world, and they tend to blame religion and God and that, but it's life is unfair, not God. God is fair, life is unfair, and it's what life we make of life, because we have been given the freedom of choice. So, and God would let us be, because that's who He is. So to be here, you have to be grateful for every moment, and you make the most of it, as long as you're doing the right thing and be a good person.
Following on to that, instead of being fearful all the time and having those anxieties, how do we essentially surrender our fears and anxieties to God and say, your will be done, and so on?
Well, really everything is out of our control when you think about it. There's like Colin keeps saying to me, because I do stress a lot, and he keeps saying to me, you can't control everything. You have to just let it go. And it does take a long time to sort of realise that, and then you do come to a cross point in your life where you say, well, really there's nothing I can do, I'm handing it all over to you, God. And then you start finding some inner peace, and I'm speaking through myself, like, through illnesses and so forth, and you just say, God, this is what you want me to go through, this is going to bring me closer to you, thank you, I'm grateful for it. Even though you go through a lot of personal issues and health issues and that, but you come out of it stronger. I know it sounds really weird, but you do. It makes you stronger, and you think, well, God, it really is in your hands. And then when something you're praying for becomes to life, you're very grateful for it. So just don't stop praying. That's all. Never stop praying.
Yeah. Now, you may not have the answer to this question, but we want to know what you may think. When you see suffering and sadness all around us, we just had an incident with Sydney trains today. Why do you think so many people suffer, both physically and spiritually?
Lack of faith would be one, I'd say. People have given up. People have forgotten God. And that's sad, because yes, tragic events happen, and the first thing that comes to mind, you just got to pray for those souls. It doesn't matter who it is, because they are a human being and they are suffering. So we just always got to keep those people in our prayers around the world, because nobody likes tragedy, nobody likes wars, nobody wins in wars, and it is very sad. However, if we all just found our faith again and went back to being less greedy as a world, I suppose, maybe it would be a different place. I don't have the answers,
We all know there will always be wars, there will always be tragedies, and it's up to the people themselves how they handle it. It's a fact of life. If you've got your faith and your beliefs, it goes a long way to getting through these particular times.
We'd also like to ask you, is there anything that your parents bestowed on you values-wise, or even gave you a quote that you would like to give to the next generation?
My late dad, always said, do good in your life and you'll always find good. And I stand by that. I think that really is a good quote to remember and to practice.
Geez, I can't remember any of Dad's quotes.
Any values?
One thing he told me, which doesn't apply today, never swear in front of a woman.
I think it's very admirable.
That was one thing he always impressed on me. He said, it doesn't matter how rough they are or what they do, don't you ever swear in front of a woman.
Spoken like a true gentleman.
Yeah.
Yes.
He did have some good points.
Now here at Pearls of Wisdom, we like to always ask this final question. What would be your wish for humanity, both of you?
Oof.
Well, in this day and age would be peace, and I think it'll be on everyone's agenda around the world would have peace.
Everyone wishes for peace, but I think we just need understanding. We just need understanding as the big word, I think, for not just for people, but for the ones at the top, the leaders of the country. Just have a bit of understanding. Cut out the greed. There's a lot of greed in the world.
Well, that's a good way to end the interview. I'd like to thank you both for coming today and giving us a bit of your wisdom.
Thank you.
As is customary with the Pearls of Wisdom project, we'd like to give you a few presents. So we have 2 bookmarks with iconography on it.
Thank you.
You can use that when you're having a bit of a reading session. And then
you.
we have 2 icons of the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and also Jesus praying on the Mount.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And we really appreciate you helping us here today.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, viewers, for hearing the Pearls of Wisdom project today. Our mission and prayer for this project is to be able to take away isolation amongst individuals and bring them all together. And this story of friendship was a good one to kind of show that and give you practical advice on how to maybe find friends and get out of that isolation. As you know, we also have a youth group which is intended to also provide those tools to bring you out of isolation and start connecting with other people. I invite Andrea and Colin to also maybe do a talk on friendship at that youth group. Our youth group is on every second Friday night, and we hope to see you there. But that will be all for now with the Pearls of Wisdom. Thank you very much.